welcome to the Witch in the Woods. And I've come here into the woods, which is why you can hear chainsaws. There's obviously someone's doing some pruning somewhere. Maybe they're cutting their firewood. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about doing deity work. And I was wondering how to present this, and really I just want to be out in one of my favourite spots with the guides and the chainsaws. And I'm out here in the woods because I thought I wanted to make a video. I'm in a lovely spot. I'm in the spot which is it's a little birch wood, and it's just behind my house. I wanted to make a video about deity work. So, how do you choose a deity? I don't know what I'm going to say. I mean, I looked at some of the videos online and I wanted to make some kind of farcical TikTok-like presentation saying, yeah, throw some glitter into a puddle on the third night of the new moon and your deity's name will appear in the mist. And I thought, yeah, that's kind of what you get online, isn't it? No, some people have sensible answers. Some people I don't gel with that kind of witchcraft. Maybe I think that I was taught by a real witch, and a lot of people have learnt by books. I learnt by books too, but eventually I went and found a teacher and I got what I called solid education. So anyway, I was taught ancient secrets of magic. Doesn't that sound good? Ancient secrets of magic. And I'm gonna package them in some glossy witch box, sell them you with glitter. So I'm not that kind of witch. I'm not that kind of YouTube witch. I'm not a TikTok witch. I'm not an Instagram witch. So I've come out here because the closest deity to me at the moment is there's a little bit of a presence in this wood. So I'm here in the woodland with the woodmen chopping down the trees because I felt a presence in this woodland, and so I kind of wanted to be close to this presence to make this video, I think, because I kind of want it to communicate as well. And I would say that one of the deities that I'm working with at the moment is a woodland deity, and I would say it was a local nature spirit, a local genius Loki. And I can see him as a small dwarf or gnome. And he's the guardian of this woodland, and he's working with me and others, I suspect, in the area to clean up the place a little bit, because we tend to treat nature like our dustbin. And he wants me to pick up some beer cans. A lot of beer cans around here. There's a lot of total mess being thrown over a wall by residents just over here. This is just behind my house, and it's really a place that's been used to dump stuff. Now that's a little bit beyond me, although I suspect eventually even that is going to get dealt with a little bit, because there is some kind of supernatural presence here, and it's working with people's imaginations and people's subconscious, and maybe without them even knowing it, to clear up this bit of land. I know it. And so how do you work with a deity? Well, a deity comes and finds you, and sometimes they want you to do something for them. They want you maybe to take care of a place, to see the supernatural beauty and magic in a place and bring that through your awareness to the place that you're in. So I've chosen this little birch woodland. It's a magical little woodland. This is where I find fly garricks. So I've come to see if there are any fly garricks around, but they're not up yet. So it's too warm. It's quite warm today. But when I first worked with this woodland, I came here to pick up some birch twigs to make a broom. And it was then that the birch actually told me to come back and have a look for fly garricks, because fly garricks grew here. And as it promised, I came back in sort of end of October, November, and there were fly garricks all over the place. And so I knew that the little suggestion that I'd received in my mind was not total nonsense. It wasn't a symptom of some kind of mental illness, that I could trust the messages that I was receiving. And this is the way to choose a deity. It chooses you, and you have to trust the messages you are receiving. Now, I don't know if I understand deity work in the same way that other people seem to. So I just want to talk a little bit about my experience of working with deities. Now, it's kind of odd because as far as I can understand, the deities they're talking about are the massive gods, and I see deity as the smaller gods. I see a lot of nature spirits are also deities, a lot of the spirit of place, the little guardians of an area like this woodland. There are deities here as well. So I would also like to include some of the nature spirits that I feel, in fact mostly led to larger deities through smaller deities. So in this area, I feel in touch with the woodland spirits, one woodland spirit in particular. And I can feel him here now in my mind's eye. So as I'm working with deity, I'm also working with small, lesser known gods, ones that don't have names. And you just have to be receptive to your imagination, basically, and that still small voice, and your good heart. So what do deities want from you? They want your good heart. Do they want offerings? Do they want grandeur and splendour and altars and candles and gifts? No, I don't think they do. I think what they want is your good heart to work with them for the good of the planet. Can you choose a deity? Can you say, oh, I'm on a Norse path, so my deity's got to be Freya? Well, I think you can, and you can make petitions for that deity to work with you. But I think it's much better if a deity chooses you. And it's not such a grand thing. It's not suddenly in a puff of mist comes some great god into your life. It comes through coincidence. It comes through noticing the connections to things that interest you and things that you're drawn to researching, you know, who were the gods of my ancestors, what were their names, what were their stories, what attributes they have, what symbols did they work with. So one of the earliest gods that I worked with, or goddesses that I worked with, was Bridget. And I started working with Bridget just through receiving her name, and through being in a magical place. So I think connecting to the spirits through deep immersion in the unusual is the way to connect with a deity, to go out of the ordinary, to listen to your own heart. So I connected with Bridget by spending a night in a tumble-down house, and we were hitchhiking, and it was November. It was December actually, and we had a tent and we were hitchhiking from one end of the country. So we got from Gloucester, which is a magical place, and we got a lift from a trucker all the way up to Cumbria, which is obviously quite a long drive. It took about 9 hours, and he dropped us off outside a village in Cumbria, and it's going dark. And my boyfriend at the time said, let's not put up a tent, let's sneak into this house. And there was a house that was being done up. It had the doors were open, we didn't have to break in or anything. It had no roof. I think there was a bit of scaffolding around the front, and obviously somebody was starting work on it. But it was one of those beautiful, curious old cottages that you used to see more of, but you don't tend to see them quite as much these days. And kids used to go and play in them. We used to go and play in them as kids. And now they've all been bought and turned into barn conversions and millionaire cottages. And in those days, they were the broken old houses. And so somebody was working on this building, but they weren't there, and obviously, you know, it was a bit of an adventure, so we decided we were going to sleep in there. And it was absolutely freezing, so we went round the back garden. I don't even know if it had a kitchen door. We went in the back door. It wasn't locked. It was, you know, we didn't break in. It wasn't breaking and entering. And we ended up going through their pantry into their kitchen, and it was nothing. It was trashed. It was just rubble, and all the tiles had fallen down, and no, it was just a building site, except for in the corner was one cast iron stove. And I opened this cast iron stove, and I stared inside, and it was full of water. And I stared at my own reflection. Now there was something about the magic of this house, this stove, and the reflection of water that made me connect to something, and I didn't know what I connected to. But later in a story I wrote about this house, and I wrote a little sort of fiction about somebody who was seeking magic in their life, and they met a spirit of an old woman sitting by a fire in a tumble-down house, and she appeared almost like in The Little Match Girl. The Match Girl dreams of her grandmother when she shuts her eyes. And I think Jung said once something like, we all share the same dreams, we all share the same metaphors, and this is how I connected to Bridget. And I called this character Bridget, and then later I discovered who the goddess Bridget was, and that she was connected to cauldrons, healing water, and sacred fires, and the hearth. So I would say that she called me and not the other way around. She informed me who she was and not the other way around. And so this was my setting out on my path to witchcraft, really. And I would say that Bridget was the goddess who called me to it. But at that time it wasn't really witchcraft, it was more connecting with my Celtic ancestry and connecting to the heritage of the land around me, really. And so yeah, when you're working with deities, what you're really doing is working with your genetic ancestors. So look there for the deities that are calling to you. Find out which characters you're interested in, why you're interested in them, what they teach you. So Bridget is the goddess of poetry, and so with Bridget I found myself exploring my creativity and exploring poetry writing and storytelling and healing through that as well, exploring my own wounds and how I could tell stories about my life to understand the path I'd taken and to understand the issues that were there. And as Bridget is the goddess of healing, I would say that I found the healing of creativity through Bridget. So I worked with her for a few years, and then I started working with Ceridwen. And Ceridwen is the crone goddess with very similar attributes: goddess of the cauldron, goddess of the healing waters, and goddess of poetry. And so I was led to understand who Ceridwen was through a Welsh lady, and she taught me a lot about magic, and she taught me about the Druidic mysteries and about the goddess Ceridwen. And so the next goddess I connected to was her. And yet again, it wasn't a case of I went out and I found who I wanted to work with. It's just that she came my way. And it's like you're chosen as the next student by them. The old witch would choose who was a student who was, worthy of receiving the mysteries, as it were, and it wasn't a case of the other way around. And that's why you get many stories of people who get lost and stumble into her rather than go out looking for her and know where she lives. But anyway, whether this makes sense, I'm not sure. And so, yeah, I worked with Ceridwen and I worked with Druidry. I worked with learning witchcraft, and with working with the other worlds. So really I've not worked with that many deities in my life. Now the next, and they're all goddesses really. I will mention that the Green Man has been one of the deities that I worked with, and he is part of the woodland spirit, and you contact him in woodlands. Now I've got a kind of advantage in that I am living in Europe, so we have the stories that are our heritage belong to the land that we're living on. So I wonder if you're American, if you have that same connection to those fairy beings. It's a different land. I can't say I've never been. I can't say I understand what the energy of America is like. I've been to other countries. I suppose you do connect with the nature spirits there. I connected with dust devils in Portugal. That was fun. Oh yeah, they're weird. They are odd. Oh my god, different kind of energy altogether. And yeah, they spin around in little hurricanes of dust, and they're just sort of flying past. Woohoo, there goes a dust devil. Oh yeah, they're good nature spirits. So yeah, maybe if you've got an awareness to the land around you, you will find them, no matter what your heritage. But where was I? Okay, so the next spirit I worked with was, I was finding myself wanting to work with Norse deities. So I kind of asked the question of the universe, which is the Norse deity that I'm going to be working with? Who should I work with now? And of course I'm thinking, it's Freya. It's got to be Freya. Everybody works with Freya. Everybody wants Freya. And actually the goddess that I found myself drawn to was Halder. And so, you know, never presume that you are going to find what you're looking for. Something else may call to you instead. And so at the moment I've got a real interest in learning about Halder, and it seems that she's an ancient woodland spirit, and she is older than the Norse pantheon. She's the original Germanic goddess, and a very, very important goddess to meet, and I suspect that I have to meet her first before I can move on to later deities such as the Norse pantheon. But the original roots of those Germanic deities, to me, and as a woman I'm going to be drawn to the goddesses, to me this is learning about Halder. And I love her. She's such a friendly grandmother. She's strict, but she's loving. And another part of deity work that I quite often see on YouTube videos is what kind of offerings you should give your deities, and you know, make them a little altar and things like that. Now, I don't work like that. I don't believe that, nice as they may be, rushing out and buying a little statuette of your goddess and then leaving it some flowers, or I've heard all sorts of things, you know, they're associated with this and that, so leave them this food and that food, and you know, it's all a bit sort of doing it by rote, doing it by index in a kind of really cheap and nasty magic book. If that works for you, if that, you know, if that's the way you're instinctively, intuitively drawn to honour that goddess, fair enough. But personally, I think you've got to listen to your heart, and it's more the deeds you do and the honour you give in your heart that is your offering, if you ask me. I don't believe that you need to set aside an altar, but then I've never worked that way really. I've got a small altar. I set altars when I do magic, but I don't have a permanent altar. And on my altar in magic I just have a plant to connect to the natural world, and you know, maybe a candle, a bowl of water and a feather or some incense, and I clear it away when I'm done. I don't leave it having an altar around the whole time. It's not necessary. So I guess it's the way you work, and I don't work that way. What I do is I would sit here in the woodland surrounded by birch trees and talk about connecting with deities, and this is my offering, and this is my learning how to work with that deity, finding somewhere quiet and peaceful. So that's just a few thoughts on deity work. It may not be similar to everybody's concept of deity work, but to me they've always just called to me and appeared when I was ready for them, when I was ready to move on and work with them different ways. So I hope you found that of some interest. If you've got anything to add to that, how you work with deities, let me know in the comments below. And tell me who your deities are, and if you've had any similar experiences of how you met them, which was beyond your logical and conscious choice, or whether you did consciously choose. I mean, we're all different. And why? Why did you choose a certain deity? So, to me, that's deity work. May not be the same as everybody else's. So I hope you found that of some use, of interest, and thanks for listening, and I hope to speak to you all again soon. Cheers, bye.